What is going on, everyone? This is Skycedi, and welcome back to another Q&A video. This is part 3 of a series that I'm doing of the questions that you guys sent to me through Instagram. And in this particular video today, I want to answer the music related questions. Now, I received a couple of questions regarding me being a music producer, my process, and also some of the gear and software that I use. And so I'm going to attempt to answer that in this video. But first, if you guys are new to this channel, my name is Skycedi. I am a Black and Korean man living here in South Korea. I like to talk about culture a lot on this channel and present stories of not only people's experience here in Korea, but also my own, being a Black and Korean man. And so if that is something that you are into, hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. Now, if you guys don't know, I am a music producer. I have been producing music for a number of years now, and I have been quite inactive for the past couple of years for many different reasons, but it is something that I am picking back up, and it's something that I want to really get involved in here in Korea. So that's another thing for me to add to my list, but it is a passion and it is something that I really want to pursue. And so let's talk about that in this video. Now, I've got 3 questions that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to look at my phone and let's go through these questions, and this is the order in which I'm going to answer them in. The first question is, what got you into producing music? The next question that I'm going to answer is your music process, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about my music process when it comes to producing. And the last question is going to be, what's your entire music rig, including VSTs and plugins? Alright, so without further ado, we got a lot to cover. Let's get started. So what got me into producing music is basically about 15 years ago or so, I attended this church in North Carolina, and it was a pretty popular church known for their music and the musicians, and so it was a great church where I learned a lot musically from. And the church also had its own in-house studio, and they self-produced albums. And I was just, as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, young musician, I was very intrigued by that. And I thought the whole thing was very cool. And so I would look up to some of these musicians and our music director, and I naturally just wanted to get into doing what they were doing, because I just thought it was so cool to be able to put together so many different instruments and sounds and go into the studio and to not only track but to mix and then to eventually master it. I thought that was just so cool. I remember one day job shadowing one of the members of the church who owned a studio in the city, not in the church, but a separate studio. And I job shadowed him one day, and he was the one that really sparked my interest on the studio side. And so I was able to just check out his studio, see what his process was like. And from that point forward, I knew that I wanted to get into it. Even though I had access to, some of the people at my church who knew what they were doing and that did a lot of the studio recording, I didn't really want to be a burden to them. So I would ask some questions here and there, but I would mostly just watch them and see how they did things. And I would also utilize the internet, and YouTube was starting to become a thing. It was starting to become a do-it-yourself platform where you could look up different videos on how to do things. And so I started looking up videos on how to mix and how to track, and just started playing with the program. And so that's how I got started. As far as my musical background, I had experience in playing drums, guitar, and keyboard throughout my teenage years, mostly self-taught. I had an understanding of how to put music together. I understood how the drums and the bass were supposed to lock together. I understood how the keyboard would kind of fill in the mid-range, where the drums and bass would kind of hold down the bottom end. And so I had this understanding of how music was supposed to come together. Getting into the studio and producing music electronically became a natural thing, and I just kept at it. And so fast forward a couple more years later to 2011, 2012-ish, that was when I was the most active in producing. And so I'll let you guys hear some of the stuff that I produced then. I'll let it play right now.
You got a problem, didn't know about that. How about you catch me outside, how about that? I don't like your attitude, you're gonna have to drop that. Passing you the blunt, boy, better not drop that. Girl left in jeans, but you're gonna have to drop that. Bodies on the floor, all you cats gonna drop.
inside. So I'll sing a song to you when there's nothing left to do, when the load seems too heavy, burden you carry. I'll sing a song for you.
So that was some of the stuff that I ended up producing around that time. I did do some projects with other people, and I did actually produce an album where I got paid to produce it from a local artist, and it was a 7-song album. I basically tracked everything. She wrote the songs. She came to the studio, my studio at the time, and I basically put the music behind it. I tracked all the instruments. I tracked her vocals. We also brought in another vocalist that we knew in on the project, and we tracked it all in my studio. I mixed it, and then I sent it off to another company to master it, and I did a whole project myself as a producer. That was how I got into producing. Now, my music process when it comes to production, I don't know. I think it really depends on whatever inspires me at the time. A lot of times whenever I'm thinking of like a song or I get a song idea, it'll start with a melody. It'll start with just maybe a sound that I'm hearing in my head, and I'll just go to the computer and try to emulate what I'm hearing. But a good portion of the time it'll just start with a beat. So I'll just track some beats and maybe some rhythms, and then from there I'll just maybe throw a bass line on it, and then I'll track everything else. So it really just depends. Sometimes I'll hear a song that inspires me and I'm like, you know what, I want to do something with that sort of feel, but do it in my own way. I'll just take maybe elements from that song, maybe it's the sounds that they're using, or maybe it's the type of beat or rhythm, and I'll start tracking that and I'll build something off of that. Now, if I'm working with somebody else, when I'm collabing, it's a whole nother world, because usually they might come with an idea or a song that they've written and they'll sing it for me. We'll lock in the tempo and I'm like, okay, cool. I think I'm hearing this, and so I'll just start playing some chords around it, and the rest is history. So that's sort of my process. Now, the third question is, what's your entire music rig, including VSTs and plugins? So my main DAW that I use to track with is Pro Tools, but I recently, and when I say recently, I mean like last week, I just decided to switch over to Logic, because again, I'm gonna be getting back into producing. And I've noticed that here in Korea, a lot of producers, they use Logic. And so I figured if I'm gonna get into collaborating and, you know, maybe sharing files and stuff like that, I wanna be on the same system. And plus I'm a Mac user, and I thought, you know, why not? It's been a couple of years since I was really active. And so I feel like if I get back into Pro Tools, I'm gonna have to sort of relearn some things anyway. So I figured it'd be a good time to switch and try out another software program. And so we'll just say that I'm using Logic for now. And as far as my plugins, I actually use the Waves Mercury bundle, and so that's my main go-to plugin for, or plugin set for my EQs, my compressors, and you know, my reverbs, delays, and all of that. And so there are just tons and tons of professional grade effects that I use. As far as sounds, I have an awesome synth program called Omnisphere from Spectrasonics. I feel like that's like the best synth program out there, hands down. It's very expensive, but it's worth the money if you have it. I also use Spectrasonics Stylus RMX for a lot of loops and things like that. Even though I do a lot of my own drum programming, I use a lot of Native Instruments plugins as well, and so I use that for my sounds mostly. What else? I've got a couple of other random things. I used to use Superior Drummer, don't use that anymore, but I've got Battery through Native Instruments. Those are pretty much my main plugins and VSTs, minus maybe a couple of other one-off things. And so it's really been more than enough in terms of helping me produce what I needed to produce. And so I'm looking forward to getting into whatever's out there now. Anyways, there you guys have it. that's my music process and just how I got started into music production. And so if you guys have any questions about that, make sure you leave it in the comments below, and maybe one day I'll walk you guys through my process of creating something and you get to see me do it from beginning to end. I don't know, who knows? If you guys want to see it, I'll do it. So anyways, guys, if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, follow me on social media at Skycedi on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember to always seize the day. Peace.